Michael Simon and the Junkway crash. Well, when Judge Taylor yelled out in court, "Oh, they caused that Junkway crash. It's a hit, you could say, by that red Volvo that caused that SUV to speed into the median, exploding, causing the car hood to fly into the front cab without engine in it, where it was one of the front cab kind of garbage trucks that would have went through the fucking windshield and everything right into us. You would find what she's actually saying is that the Junkway hit was a hit on Judge Michael Simon and the Susan Bonamici Audrey Ward deal that Judge Taylor was working on with John Berg for Judge Callahan, so they could be included in the arrest of Judge Jennifer Stencil Grant and Judge Ted E. Grove, because Berkeley Smith died off and everybody wanted to protect Judge Reed because Judge Reed got entrapped and or framed. So they accused that the Junkway hit was a hit actually on the Portland Federal Circuit Court District. That is what they are going to accuse, not only of why my dad's hospital room 351 in Good Samaritan got harassed and put under investigation, and my dad got told he was going to get murdered the whole time. He's a piece of shit, by Nick Brazic, who admitted to doing it, and Jennifer Stencil Grant, who admitted to watching Nick Brazic do it because she needed to overwatch. Why I wouldn't give her the racketeering immunity like she wanted beforehand, and I had to wait the 2 years after I got my other immunity. Now you look into that, you would not only find why I'm contracted with Tasia Bellwood, but you would find more car incident hits. But you look into John Butchko Sr.'s dad and John Berg admitting that Judge Grant and Nick Brazic and Ted Grove didn't harass him, but John Berg did with the state troopers out in Portland in their jurisdiction of the Pearl District of Portland. Now, we were able to get John Butchko's dad not harassed, but they just watched him and maybe said one thing when I was talking to him, and they're just to let me know who it was. But you would find that that hit leads to the hit on the old man who got knocked out. That old man who got knocked out would lead back to the Junkway crash, proving that the Junkway crash was an actual hit by a red Volvo. That red Volvo got away, the people in it got away. Now you move forward to the old man getting knocked out after my dad got harassed in room 351. John Butchko Sr. getting put in the same room as my dad in the emergency room, room 351. Both harassment through the TV, both claim investigations because these people were criminals and they were dying. And they should not die the way that a normal person dies. You move on and you keep connecting the dots. Well, it wasn't just the old man who got knocked down and the criminal I chased down that ended up making me look good. Was that really to make me look good, or was that for 2011, the war room where we killed Osama bin Laden? You know, Obama did it, and then he ran on that as a campaign while Susan Bonamici was running as a Democrat. She gets elected. Audrey Ward's her campaign manager. I do all this other good stuff, have this job. They get told I'm like a sitting guy like the Dalai Lama, or I'm romantic and interesting, or there's these kind of bribes. I continue on. I'm not an incel or anything, but I do like staying by myself. I like true crime stuff. I've always been into true crime and watching shows about true crime and wondering how that makes our societal generation evolve and why we are evolving around such true crime theories and such. You move on into other things. More hits, more car hits. The one at Rocky Point Road, the one where me and John Butchko came back and we got a pass through because I was working for the fire department at Ron Maruska's ranch. So everybody else got held back for like 2 hours. But once they saw I was in the cab of John's truck, they let 3 cars in front of us go. And then they immediately got us out, stopped everybody else, held them up, and let us drive right through. Got Desiree Stover. Obviously, they knew about the crash. They stayed at Rocky Point. We're not involved. Whole fucking road got shut down. Shit like that. You go on to the Les Schwab fire, where the tire fire happened because the guy with the cigarette dropped his cigarette in the back. My cigarette went out, unlike his, and burned stop papers. Maybe you smoked one of them rolly cigarettes, right? And it didn't go out and kept burning, obviously caused a field fire leaking into the Les Schwab building, causing the Les Schwab building to burn down. Casey Jenkins worked at Les Schwab in Scappoose that just opened up, where I got the tickets, got put on the Jumbotron in the Moda Center, Jenny L. Clark's Jumbotron racketeering, to try and say that Casey Jenkins had a hit on him at Les Schwab, even though he worked at the Scappoose Les Schwab, where I got the tickets from, and that the St. Helens Les Schwab was the one that burnt down because it was the same business franchise. We could say it was a hit on that. We could blame the fire department. We could blame other agencies, state police. It was just outside of the safety corridor and sheriff jurisdiction, right next to Bing's not quite jurisdiction of St. Helens City Police. We could have arguments about all of this. We could continue on. And then you look at each of these arguments with Judge Taylor ahead are supposed to be hits not only outside of that city, but inside of Columbia County on a Judge Michael Simon of the Federal District Court. That's why Norm Miller and Karen Fabiano wanted that journal I wrote called Norm Miller's Crime Org, because that's supposed to link their control together, not only over CCMH, but over the court systems, to have the Portland federal court system controlled for the police bull-eye lawsuits. That way, when Doug Grison loses, then the probation department could have their own against Walt Pesterfield, protecting Janet Evans, saying that Walt was abusive, saying that Janet knows how to train people. Walt doesn't. Walt shouldn't have ran any informants. Janet Evans was after all the contracted people. She was against Walt. She was against Ted Britton. She was against Shelley. She was against Jeremy Kingsbury when I was a kid. They're going to arrest all them POs. She's going to protect herself, bust Linda Hall, because those POs knew about it, never turned her in. And you keep going on and on and on and on and on and so forth with this bribery that's actually supposed to not link Susan Bonamici, is later on for political power. It's supposed to get the federal power of the Portland Circuit Federal Court District to have over the states. So any kind of bull-eye gets pushed through, and Michael Simon starts doing political horse trading with his wife, Susan Bonamici, because he was under threat because of Levi Gaiman, who should be arrested because of how Caleb Gaiman could have got money or something like that, and his brother's contracted with Berg, and Levi was used for the military thing with Tom Clayson, and Levi was going to protect Greg Dixon, and Callahan and Judge Taylor were going to arrest Greg Dixon and all those guys. So Michael Simon might as well make the trade to arrest Levi, otherwise they're going to bring up the junk way hit against Michael Simon and say that Michael O'Shea and a bunch of other people did it, and it was work with the state police that Michael O'Shea and the bribery caused, and if Michael Simon doesn't listen with his wife, we're going to give him that fucking charge. Then you move on to January 15th, 2023, during the MLK stuff, and them going to either educational things or political things, and the car hit that happens on Susan Bonamici and her husband Michael Simon. You use Christine Drazen or Tina Kotek for lawsuit fill-ins, give yourself immunity, say that it was stoppable, use the Tasia Bellwood contract, maybe even use other contracts where I've stopped car hits and I've stopped people from dying. Say that that could have been stopped, that the state police protection wasn't good enough. Let the federal government roll in. Give Michael Simon his immunity power. Say that he is a victim of a crime. Therefore, we now have full control of the federal government because we have a victimized judge of a victimized politician in a car hit inside of that, and enough evidence of how the car hit was pulled and all the players in the game.